Hello, this is Pastor Mike Rogers with California Capital Connection. And it's good to have with me today Burt from California Family Council. And Greg, if you could tell just briefly a little bit of what you do, and then I know that there's something very special that you want us to start talking about that is hanging in the balance in California right now. So why don't you go ahead and take it?
Thank you so much for having me. My name's Burt, and I work for an organization called the California Family Council, and we are a Christian nonprofit. We are one of 40 policy councils that are operating around the country in states. We got 40 states, and we're affiliated with Focus on the Family, Alliance Defending Freedom, and we are here at the Capitol. I live really close in Elk Grove and up at the Capitol all the time, and act as a watchdog in the legislature. We are very interested in promoting and protecting biblical values, and we want to speak up for the truth. And so when issues defending family or the unborn or the value of life or the biblical definition of the family and gender, we're there sounding the alarm, gathering folks to speak up and be a voice for truth. So that's a short little bio on what we're up to, but love to work with Pastor Rogers. We've been working together for years now, and sitting and meeting many times, and it's been a great partnership.
You know, when it comes to working there together, and I've enjoyed it too, big time as well. Many times we wind up dealing with situations that they impact adults. And of course, adults can make choices. We hate to see it. We want people to know Christ. But what is going on right now really has us concerned. And I'm so thankful for what you are doing to get people to focus on what is taking place at the Capitol right now. Why don't you go ahead and share that, Greg?
Yeah, one of the bills that we have been sounding the alarm about this year, particularly, is a bill that's coming out of the Assembly. Assemblyman Miguel Santiago out of Los Angeles introduced a bill. It's AB 2218 that wants to fund gender clinics around the state. Now, gender clinics have been popping up this last decade. It's gone from like one gender clinic to about 50. And these gender clinics are really embracing a philosophy that's completely against God's plan for our lives and how he created human beings as male and female. These gender clinics are actually telling young people that you can be trapped in the wrong body and that your feelings and desires determine your sex and your biology doesn't. And so it is a very popular philosophy now that's being brought into the elementary schools, and you're telling kids that they could be one of many genders. And if you find yourself feeling like you are the other gender, these gender clinics will help transition you medically to one sex to the other. And so this particular bill is funding particular treatments, both drugs and surgeries, to make an individual look like the opposite sex. And so it's AB 2218. And we've been, we've had some great hearings as far as bringing in people, Christians, medical doctors, to talk about how these drugs are actually doing permanent harm to people. But it's been hard because legislators are saying that we're exaggerating. Actually, the last hearing we had, the Senate Health Committee last week, we put out a campaign having people call offices and told legislators, don't support a bill that sterilizes kids, because that's what these bills do. If your child thinks he's the opposite gender and you take them to one of these clinics, the first thing they want to do is they want to put the child on puberty blockers. Now, puberty blockers is just what it sounds like. It prevents puberty from happening, right? It stops it. And then they give you the child after that cross-sex hormones. So if it's a girl, they'll give the child testosterone. If it's a boy, they'll give the boy estrogen, and their bodies start to morph and to look like the opposite sex. Although every cell in their body still has, genetically they are still male and female, and so that sterilizes them. And the thing we've struggled with having is getting legislators to believe us.
Why are they so reticent to believe you?
Why do they don't believe us?
Right.
Well, that's a good. It is very. Although transgenderism and LGBT issues are very. Everybody wants to be affirming, right?
Yeah.
They feel the way to help someone who hey, we're not. This is. People really do get trapped in feeling that they don't match their bodies. I mean, we're not denying that kind of thing can happen, but the only thing they have to offer them is to trust their feelings, right? They don't have any other foundation to bring them to help transform people. They don't have a gospel. They don't have any, they've stopped trusting the reality of biology. And so, but what we did is we pointed out that this is sterilizing children, and legislators don't want to think that they're sterilizing children, right? Because that's really unpopular. Actually, there was a bill introduced this year that was going to ask for reparations for people who had been disabled, or inmates who had been forcibly sterilized or been sterilized when they were minors in the past. And because everybody knows that sterilizing people is really what a thing to do to somebody, right? I mean, especially to a minor. And so we started to tell them the truth that you are sterilizing minors. You are taking vulnerable children who've been convinced that they're confused about their gender, and then before they even know what they're doing, to comprehend the long-term effects, you're giving them drugs and surgery that will sterilize them for the future, right? There's no going back. There's no, and I think we're trying to shock them into seeing what they're actually doing. And they reacted. They said, we're not sterilizing children. We're not So that's great. Let's have a debate about whether we're sterilizing children or not, because the evidence is so obvious. So here's what we did. We knew they wouldn't believe us. So we went to their own gender clinics. In their gender clinics, they actually require parents to sign consent forms before their children take these puberty blocking drugs and hormones. And the hospital has to tell parents what actually happens. And we got a hold of a consent form, and if I could share my screen.
Sure.
I will show you the article we just published here. Okay, this is an article we just published yesterday or the day before, and it says LA's Children's Hospital contradicts California legislators. Trans drugs do sterilize kids. And what we did is we got a hold of this disclosure form that the hospital actually requires parents to sign before they give their kids puberty blockers. All right. So this is coming from their own sources. Look what it says here on the point little 2 here. It says, if your child starts puberty blockers in the earliest stages of puberty and then goes on to gender affirming hormones, that's the cross-sex hormones, they will not develop sperm or eggs. This means they will not be able to have biological children. This italics in underline, I didn't put that there. Then they say, this is an important aspect of blocking puberty and progressing to hormones that you should understand prior to moving forward with puberty suppression. So these two combined drugs from the hospital, they are telling parents the children will not be able to have kids in the future. So this is this is starting to make some news. This is something we've been telling them all along, but if they don't even trust their own sources, this bill, this is the gender clinic. This hospital has a gender clinic, and the bill that we're opposed to is going to fund this gender clinic and start other ones around the state. That's what the whole point of the bill is, to fund more of this gender, changing. So this is so harmful and damaging to people. We're just trying to wake them up. And so hopefully the debate gets out there. Sadly, a lot of the secular press won't cover this. We have a lot of conservative and Christian organizations sounding the alarm, but we're trying to get the regular press to stop, ignoring this real problem. So I know I talked a lot. So
no, that's that's incredible. The one verse that comes to my mind is, thinking themselves to be wise, they became fools. And we're seeing that played out right here. And this is so heartbreaking, because you wind up having, like the young lady that you had come before the hearing recently. I mean, what a testimony for Jesus Christ.
Absolutely. She is such a beautiful spirit. Her name is Laura Perry, and she works for a ministry in Oklahoma that helps people come out of transgenderism. And she herself lived as a man for 8 years, was on testosterone. She grew a beard. She had a double mastectomy in San Francisco, and she had all of her female organs removed. And she was always, and she just never, and I interviewed her, and she grew up a really hard childhood. She just never felt accepted by the girls, right? She could never fit in. And then the boys didn't accept her either, right? And then she had a real conflict with her mom, and she just decided she would want to have nothing to do with being feminine. And she just decided, somebody convinced her that the reason she didn't want to be a girl is because she really was a boy, right? And there's this whole culture out there that will embrace you, right? And tell you to, your true self is what your feelings are telling you. So she tried it. She thought she was going to be happy, right? She kept putting her hope in these surgeries because she's going to finally feel comfortable with herself. And towards the end, after all that she did, she was just in despair. She realized none of this was real. It was all fake. And her mother was praying for her, and she had this group of women in a Bible study that was just praying and praying for her. And she finally started helping her mom put together a website for one of their Bible studies. And she slowly started to realize maybe God could accept her. And when she decided to go back to church and leave her, her partner, and come back to Christ, she just was, it was really, really emotionally hard. But you should see her now. It's been 4 years, and you would never, she says, I so much now love being a woman, right?
That is
her perspective on her life just completely changed. And you look at her face and you hear her voice, and, she's happy, right? She's finally found peace. And it came from returning to, the truth and turning to the gospel, Jesus is there for people who are weak and broken and need mercy. And he says, follow me. But he says, follow me, right? Leave it all behind and follow me. And that's what she had to do. She had to realize she was living in sin, and she was rebelling against God, and God embraced her with open arms. And that's the answer for folks. It isn't these drugs and surgery. So there's a huge opportunity for the gospel here. I was so happy to be able to promote her, have her come and testify on a statewide stage, and just I hope people draw hope.
Well, just real quick, what is the potential future for 2218 right now, this year?
Well, it's now stuck in the the Senate Appropriations Committee. So tomorrow they're going to have a hearing to decide if it moves forward. It actually died at one point, but the Senate Pro Tem, who is the leader of the Senate, resurrected the bill. They were only going to have one health hearing, and she gave that committee another hearing at the last minute and enabled the bill to go forward. So, and she's part of the LGBT caucus. Her name is Toni Atkins. Very nice lady, but she's a lesbian, fully embraced and believing that she's doing something good for people.
Yeah.
And then it will go to the floor of the Senate. So every senator needs to get confronted with the fact that these drugs are maiming and sterilizing young people at early ages before they even know what they're doing. They do not understand what does an 8-year-old, what does a 12-year-old know about, who they are and the long-term consequences of, sterilization. And,
Yeah.
we don't let kids go into a tanning booth here in California, even with parental permission. And yet here we are letting them sterilize themselves.
It's stunning. Absolutely
it's
stunning.
stunning.
Yeah.
It's stunning.
Well, hey, listen, I appreciate your time in this, and we'll encourage people to really pray over this, because the attitude is not going to leave. No matter what happens to this bill, they're going to try it again in the future, I'm sure.
No, and I think this I also see this as an opportunity. Use these bills as an opportunity to speak the truth, right? So now there's a debate in culture about the nature of who we are as human beings, and this is an opportunity for pastors to speak up, right? Our culture is confused. They need biblical answers. I think that there's so many non-Christians who are starting to realize this is crazy, right? And at that point, there's an opportunity for God to move in hearts. But pastors got to take advantage of this and speak up into the culture who is desperate for some real answers. And so I hope pastors see this as an opportunity not only to speak truth about gender, but speak truth about the gospel and its power to transform lives.
Well, I'll tell you what, if we don't, we're in a world of hurt, because it's the gospel that really counts. Hey, Greg,
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and Lord bless you in your work.
Hey, thank you so much.